whole book, through all of the intimacy skills. We are on the last skill, which is gratitude. Um, I'm so grateful to all of you for, first of all, showing up week after week. And the way that I learn is by teaching. When I teach these skills, like I embody them, and it helps me apply them in my life and stay accountable. So I just want to thank you all for being here and showing up week after week and being part of a community, and just everyone supporting each other. It's been amazing. So last week we spoke about gratitude, and we introduced sharing 3 gratitudes a day with our husband. So I started the class by asking our participants if they experimented with sharing 3 gratitudes and how that changed their relationship, if they noticed any difference in their interaction with her husband. So Tipora said that she's been expressing gratitude to her husband, but she hasn't yet seen any big changes. So I was responding to her that when we just start in the beginning, we start with the skills. Our husbands are so kind of taken aback by, who are you? What is going on? What do you really want? They're not even, their guard is so high up because they're so used to just being defensive because we're usually, the way that we express what we want is by criticizing them and telling them what we don't want, and telling them, you're not doing this right and you're not doing this right, and I want things this way and that way. And naturally, when a person feels criticized and wrong, their guard just goes up. So when we are starting to appreciate them and give them gratitude, their guard is still up. They're like, is this real? So just be patient with them and know that if you keep showing up as grateful and keep showing up as expressing your desires and giving them that sense of safety around you, the guard will come down. And when they feel safe around you, the whole dynamic changes. And when he feels safe to be himself around you, and he's not being told that he's wrong all the time in everything that he does, and he's respected. Remember, respect for man is his oxygen. When he starts feeling respected, then he can focus on making us happy. He can focus on, when we express our desires, then he can focus on fulfilling our desires, because again, this is why he's here on earth. But he can focus on making us happy when he feels defensive. So when we start working with the skills and it's brand new, just know that it's new to him and he's confused and he's just like, what is happening? So be patient, be consistent, keep practicing. This is why we have our community, is just to support each other and to let you know that I've been there and a lot of us have been where you are. And just keep practicing. It works if you work them. Keep practicing the skills, keep working them. We're here to support you and you will see progress. Right, Shoshana?
Right. I'm here with my mother on vacation and returning to the class because it works.
Beautiful. Jana, I don't know your mom's name.
Larissa.
Larissa.
Hi, Larissa, Mrs.
Hi.
Larissa.
Nice to meet you.
So nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Hi, Sharona. I see you. All right. So does anyone have any questions regarding last week's class about the expressing gratitudes? Questions, comments, insights? Okay. So then I guess we're ready to dive into SFPs. I love SFPs. They have really just given me the language, because first of all, it's one thing to say, you know what, I want to stop criticizing my husband. I want to express what I want. But how do I do that? It wasn't modeled to us, like we're continuing the same patterns that we kind of saw our parents or our aunts and uncles and all these different couples in our lives. And the way that they would communicate is by expressing what they don't want, by complaining, by letting their spouse know, all of these things are wrong about you, so change. And we don't know any other way. So now that we are aware and we know that, I want to express what I want to express my desires, I want to I want to show gratitude. I want to show respect. I want to have communication that is clear, and I want to express what I want. How do I do that? I don't have the language for it. So this is what we're learning this week. It's called SFPs, is Spouse Fulfilling Prophecies. So let's dive into that. I'm going to share my screen. And there you go. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yep.
All right, so chapter 25, the power of the spouse fulfilling prophecies. Expectancy is the atmosphere of miracles. So expectancy here is basically when we expect miracles, we say, Hashem, I know you got this for me. Like I was sharing in the group, a prayer of, please, 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 Hashem, please, please make this happen. It's like that energy of like, please, please, please. It's as if Hashem is holding something back from us. Hashem is like, doesn't want to give us what we want. Hashem is always giving it to us. We're open. We are the ones who close off because we don't believe that we're open. We have all these beliefs that I'm not valuable, I'm not worthy, I can't have a beautiful marriage, I can't have a beautiful intimate relationship, and we are the ones who close the receiving of all the good that Hashem has to offer us. But expectancy is the atmosphere of miracles, means that if we expect miracles, Hashem, I know you got this for me. Hashem, I know that you're going to get me to a beautiful, connected, intimate marriage. I know you got this for me. So when I'm in a state of prayer and I expect miracles, guess what? That's what I'm gonna get. That's just, so we tend to go into this energy of, that's just like you. We affirm things all the time. Often we don't even realize it. We say things like, I'm terrible with money, or I have intimacy issues, which may be just the opposite of the experience that we want. But what we focus on increases. And when we're focused on things that we don't want, we end up with more of them. That's one great reason for abstaining from self-criticism. You're actually making a negative affirmation whenever you put yourself down every time. Ladies, please mute mute yourselves just so that it's not disturbing. So we're constantly affirming. So whatever we believe, we're bringing that into our reality. Whatever we focus on increases. So if I'm focusing on this belief that I'm terrible with money and I have intimacy issues and my husband's a loser and my kids are this, or like, but if I'm constantly focusing on that, that's what I'm creating in my reality. Whatever I focus on, I keep, if I believe that I have intimacy issues, I'm constantly focusing and I'm looking for evidence. My brain will look for evidence where I have intimacy issues. So now we're going to talk about how to flip it around. Okay. Or I'm really out of shape. You're focusing on and expanding those outcomes. Affirmations also work on the people around us. Everybody knows how damaging it is to tell a kid he's stupid. For example, it's a negative affirmation and he might believe it, even if it's not true. Like I know as a teacher, when I used to take child psychology classes in school, they used to tell us, if you tell a kid that you're stupid, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They grow up believing that about themselves. So if we want our kids to believe that they're capable and they're smart, and like we could just focus on that, like, you're so smart, you're so capable, you're so resilient, and that's what they're going to believe, and that's what that's going to be our experience of them. So whatever we believe about our spouses, about our kids, about our mother-in-law, like name it, it becomes our reality. We have so much power in what we think and what we believe and what we say, what we actually say with our words. Affirmations also affect adults. Author and performance coach Lee Meltier taught a course on how to create a desirable outcome. So, example, better health, more money. It's by using the power of autosuggestion. During Lee's course, one woman realized she had been unwittingly affirming that her husband was always losing his temper, which was not what she wanted, right? Like we talk to our girlfriends about, oh my God, my husband, he's always losing his temper. He just doesn't know how to regulate his emotions. And if that's what I'm thinking and believing and saying, then that's going to be my experience all the time. So she was basically focusing on what she doesn't want. What she wanted was to have a peaceful and a calm home. She decided she would experiment with saying the opposite of what she had been saying. Like, how many times do we have beliefs about ourselves? Like, I'm really out of shape. I can't do anything. I hate the gym. I can never be on the whatever equipment. My body just doesn't bend that way, or whatever it is, the story that it starts with one belief, but then it becomes like this whole big story of why I can't do this thing. And if that's my belief, then I'm never even going to try to take action to do things any other way, because what I really want underneath that, and if my belief is I'm really out of shape, what is my desire? What, like, that's my complaint. I'm really out of shape, right? Every complaint is just a lazy desire. So what's underneath that desire is I would love to be in shape. So if I would love to be in shape, what are the action steps that I need to take to get into shape? Or if my belief is my husband is always losing his temper and I'm always I knew it, you always lose your temper, and when he does lose his temper, this is who you are, you always do that. And I'm kind of always kind of recreating that energy because I'm focusing on what I don't want. So if I'm focusing on my husband has a terrible temper, he always loses his temper, so that's the complaint. So what's underneath the complaint? What is my desire? I would love to have a peaceful and calm home. So in times when he is peaceful and calm, I could just, my self-fulfilling prophecy is you're so peaceful and calm. And this is my spouse fulfilling prophecy, is acknowledging the moments, because he's not always losing his temper. But if I'm focusing on that, whatever I focus on increases. But if I want to increase him being peaceful and calm, the moments that he is peaceful and calm, that's my spouse fulfilling prophecy. You're so peaceful and calm. I love it. And that's me giving him the roadmap to my happiness, to what I want, to what I love. And the more that I show up calm and expressing my desires instead of complaining, again, the shield will go down and he will put the effort into making me happy because he's no longer defending himself from being wrong all the time. So she decided she would experiment with saying the opposite of what she had been saying to see what would happen. She went home and waited for him to lose his temper. She didn't have to wait very long. As soon as he started raising his voice and swearing, she used her new affirmation, which was, "It's not like you to lose your temper." So instead of saying, you lose your temper, she went into, "It's not like you to, it's not who you are." Instead of having this belief that my husband always loses his temper, this is who he is. And if I believe that, that's what I'm going to get. So now she's switching her spouse fulfilling prophecy, and it's not like you to lose your temper. When she said that, her husband looked at her funny. Their young son said, "Yes, it is, Mom. He always loses his temper." So the son is basically repeating what Mom always used to say, because that's what he's heard his mom say his whole life. But the woman stuck to her guns and continued to affirm that it was unlike her husband to lose his temper. I know it sounds like a lie, but the fact that he always loses his temper is also a lie. So which lie do you rather create into your reality? And it is going to feel uncomfortable because we're so used to saying you always this and you never that, but nobody always anything and nobody never anything. There are times when we can catch our husband being calm and peaceful. So if it sounds like a lie, just remember that the negative one is also a lie. So which lie do you prefer to choose? Which one do you prefer to create into your reality? Which one do you prefer to increase? Whatever we focus on increases. So just think if it feels uncomfortable, just have this in your mind? And not long after, the couple went to a restaurant and the service was slow. The husband started to fume, saying he had a good mind to get the manager and let him know how long they've been waiting. Suddenly he stopped and said to her, "But it's not like me to lose my temper, is it?" So you'll see slowly, slowly, if you believe that about him, it's not like you to lose your temper. He'll realize this is not who she expects me to be. Because we expect them to play a certain role. We already expect them to be this guy who's always losing his temper. She's like, this is who I am. But then she switched her story. It's not like you to lose your temper. And then he adjusted and he was like, I don't have to play that role anymore. I don't have to be the guy who always loses his temper. I can be the guy who's peaceful and calm. You're Mr. Moneybags. So this is how we manifest money, seriously, because we we as the women, we have the power of Parnasa. It's within us. Yes, our husband brings it, but we're the ones who either open and receive or close and don't know how to receive. So I'm sharing with you guys a secret of how to rack it all in. This is it. You're Mr. Moneybags. I too have been guilty of using the power of a spouse fulfilling prophecy to affirm something I didn't want. I used to tell my husband to ask for a raise at work. For example, this let him know in a not so subtle way that I thought he should be making more money. It's pretty embarrassing to admit that now, but even worse is that it wasn't serving me at all. What he heard was the subtext, you don't make very much money. That's not a good affirmation because it was the opposite of what I wanted. So her spouse fulfilling prophecy was, you don't make very much money. Even though she wasn't saying it, that's what her belief was. And she would try to control him by telling him, you should ask for a raise. And which is like totally going on his paper and making him feel defensive. That's not a good affirmation because it was the opposite of what I wanted. And we ended up in a position where he was out of work and not making any money. What a mess, right? Because her affirmation was, you don't make very much money. Guess what? Whatever you focus on increases. That's exactly what she got. Once I connected the dots between what I was saying and what he was hearing, I decided to change it up and create spouse fulfilling prophecies. I started saying things like, you've always been such a good provider. And looking back, he really had been. Then, just for fun, I started calling him Mr. Moneybags. It sure felt like a stretch to say that all the time because I had a lot of fear that we were going to run out of money. But I decided to ignore that feeling and focus on the outcome I wanted. Okay, ladies? We focus on the outcome that we want. What do I want? I want Mr. Moneybags. I want to believe that he's a great provider. I want to feel safe knowing that my husband is a great provider. How do I do that? I focus on the outcome. You've always been such a good provider. Thank you for working so hard and providing for our family. I have to share with you guys, I sent my husband a text that recently. So last week we were working on gratitudes. I sent my husband the text. I shared it in the group. And it was so sweet. Like he felt so seen and so validated by all the work that he does. He texted me that night when he was available, and he's just like, we haven't gone anywhere. Maybe you should book a vacation. Like it was all I had to do was just give him some gratitude. Like it was so nice. And I'm telling you, I've been doing these skills for the past year. It's not something that happens overnight. But if you work them, they work. They really, really work. And it's not just from my experience, it's from so many other people that I've been in communication with. Back in the day, I used to always complain like, oh, we never go anywhere. You never want to go anywhere with me. And now I express my desires. I would love to spend time with you. I would love to spend quality time, just the two of us. And I don't give him details. I don't tell him, how it should happen and who it should happen with or where it should happen. then he kind of like, oh, okay, can you book this and this and that? And it's just so much more easier to communicate, and things are so much more in flow, and he's so much more likely to make me happy because he feels respected. And if he wouldn't have suggested everything, I would have been fine with that too. It was just so nice that that's what he suggested. So calling him Mr. Moneybags, it sure felt like a stretch to say that at the time because I had a lot of fear. So we have our own fears close up our husband's ability to make parnasa, to earn money. Because of our fears, we see all the lack, and we're in this energy of lack of what I don't have. My husband's not making money. I don't have the house that I want. I don't have the car that I want. My kids don't have the clothes that they want. This is not working, and I don't have this. It's this energy of lack, and midah keneged midah, but frequency and vibration and energy is we have to be in alignment in order to receive. So if I'm in the energy of lack, I'm going to get lack. If I'm in the energy of abundance, my husband is a good provider. I have everything I need. I have a home. I have a roof over my head. I have a comfortable bed. My kids go to good schools. My kids have good teachers. I have a refrigerator full of food. I can walk into a grocery store and buy anything that I want. If I'm in the energy of abundance and I have everything, I am enough, I have enough, guess what? That's what I attract. So it's very important that's how we open our parnasa. We focus on what we have, and we focus on my husband is a good provider. That's how we open up our mazal and our parnasa, and that's how our husband is able to have, first of all, his self-esteem goes up because we believe in him and his capability. He feels good. When he feels good, he's able to give us what we want. So even though it feels like a stretch, work it. But I decided to ignore that feeling and focus on the outcome I wanted. Shortly thereafter, my husband started a business, which has become extremely successful. He's run it for more than a decade, and he has consistently been a very good provider. He's much more successful now than he ever was when he worked for other people, and he has much more flexibility and freedom to boot. He's also much happier. So it all started with her spouse fulfilling prophecy. You've always been such a good provider. I still call him Mr. Moneybags, and now it doesn't feel false at all. If I say he's a good provider, it's because I think it's absolutely true. I now have plenty of evidence to support that. So just start with my husband is a good provider. Just start with the belief. Even if you have a hard time saying it to him, just start with saying it to yourself. My husband is a good provider, and look for evidence where he's a good provider. Is he paying the mortgage? Even though he might not be giving you money for all the things that you want, is he paying the mortgage? What is he covering? And just have gratitude for that. Thank you for paying the mortgage. Thank you for paying for the car bill. Whatever it is, where he is providing, just focus on that. Look for evidence where he's a great provider. I now have plenty of evidence to support that. Once I made the suggestion on Facebook to try a spouse fulfilling prophecy of saying you're always on time instead of you're always late. Like how many how many of us have this experience where we have this one person in our life? That's usually in my family, this is me, where people are like, Irina, you're always late. We just expect that from you. You're always late. And I've been really like working on myself. And then my husband and I started showing up on time. And now all of a sudden people are like, oh no, you're always on time. And like when people's expectation of us changes, we're like, okay, we don't have to play this role of being the late person anymore. Like people expect us to be on time. So let's go, let's be on time. So if your husband, usually like Hashem has a sense of humor. He always pairs like the person who's always running late with the person who's very like strict on time. And there's like that, like one of them has to like be a little bit faster and the other one has to like slow down a little bit to kind of like find that balance. Like somehow Hashem always like pairs those people together, I noticed. But if let's say my husband is like running late all the time, my spouse fulfilling prophecy for him could be you're always on time instead of you're always late. And that will shift his energy into she expect me to be on time. So that's what I'm, that's how I'm going to show up. Or if you have a friend who's always late, whoever, just change your expectation of them and see the magic that happens. One person responded, "You're encouraging people to lie, but here's how I see it. If I say you're always late, nobody accuses me of lying. Complaining, yes, but not lying. But can it possibly be true that someone is always late? Isn't that a lie also? It's certainly an exaggeration at least. So if you're going to exaggerate anyway, why not stretch the truth in the direction that serves you best? Why not focus on what you do want instead of what you don't want? Our perspective changes depending on what we focus on. If we focus on the lack, that's what we create. If we focus on gratitude, we get more of what we're thankful for. So I would highlight this. If we focus on gratitude, we get more of what we're thankful for. Your perceptions of your spouse may seem very real, but they actually start with your own view of the world, which only you have control over. Choose your focus wisely. I was actually reading, I have this book about the mazalot and the months, and the month of Tammuz. I know we're like in the last week of Tammuz, but the energy of Tammuz is the power of seeing the good or seeing the bad. Like what are we focusing on? It's like the Meraglim, right? They went to Eretz Israel and they came and they complained about all the bad things that are happening in Eretz Israel. And that was them telling Lashon Hara. They focused on what they didn't want. And they came back and they were punished for that. They were punished for, punishment means they punish themselves, because when we focus on the bad, we create the bad. Hashem never punishes. Hashem never punishes us. We kind of, when we focus on the negativity, we bring the negative, like we bring that into our experience and we're kind of punishing ourselves. So when we focus on the good, when we use the midah of seeing and focusing on the good, we create the good. So it was just interesting how, everything always comes together. Interestingly, when you decide to change your focus, you can always find evidence to support your new view. Imagine a court of law where you're going before a judge and jury to make a case. Could you gather evidence that your husband is thoughtful, loving, and smart? Of course you could. Could you gather evidence that he's a big loser? Of course you could. Nobody's all one thing or another. We all have our good points and bad points. Which case do you want to make to the judge and jury? Which one will serve you better? You always get to choose. So actually, ladies, I would like you to do this for homework. Imagine you're presenting a case to a judge and jury. Could you gather evidence that your husband is thoughtful, loving, and smart? Just like jot that down for yourself. My husband is thoughtful, loving, and smart. Yeah, this is the part that I'm highlighting. Do you see it? I'm not really sure what page it's on, but it's on chapter 26. This is your home. Take a minute to jot it down. Could you gather evidence that your husband is thoughtful, loving, and smart? Imagine that's what we're focusing on. We're going to take our flashlight and we're going to keep focusing on where my husband is thoughtful, loving, and smart. And every time you notice where he's thoughtful, loving, and smart, write it down for yourself. Even if you don't have your, pen and paper, everyone has notes in their phone. We all have our phones as like our third hand. So it's always with us, right? So just grab your phone and just have in your notes evidence of my husband is thoughtful, loving, or smart. And keep focusing on that. I promise you, you're going to see miracles. Because whatever we focus on increases.
So we should write down?
Yeah. Yep, that's our homework for the next 2 weeks, because I'm coming back in 2 weeks for our next class, because I'm going on vacation.
Because you did your homework.
You got to go. Homework.
You got to go on vacation.
Enjoy.
You put in
Thank
the time.
Yep, it works if you work it. Okay, you guys got it down? Okay, so we're gonna focus on whatever serves our case, because focusing on that he's a big loser and he's good for nothing or whatever stories that we started telling ourselves to, you know, to fill up the Yetzer Hara, that's not working for us. That's not what we want, right? So now we're gonna flip the switch and we're gonna focus and look for evidence of what we want so that we can increase that in our life. You could also look for evidence where he's a good provider, where he's, providing for you and for your family. That's also a great way to open up parnasa and abundance in the family. 2 weeks to a great husband. Sarah was convinced that her husband was useless. She told me he was overweight and too out of shape to play with their kids, that he wasn't making enough money to support their family, and that he never seemed to want to spend time with them either. It wasn't hard to see why the guy might be keeping his distance, because I could hear her disgust and hostility in everything she said about him, right? How do you think this guy feels? His wife is convinced that he's useless, he's overweight, out of shape. Do you think that he likes to be around her, that he feels safe to be around her? I wouldn't feel safe around a person who's always making me wrong about my weight and how I eat and whether I'm useful or not. None of us would want to be around a person like that. It wasn't hard to see why the guy might be keeping his distance, because I could hear her disgust and hostility in everything she said about him. I'd probably keep my distance from somebody who felt that way about me too. Sarah was already in the habit of reading something inspirational and journaling every morning. So I suggested that she incorporate writing down 3 things she was grateful for about her husband into her daily routine. So let's do that also. Every day, even if you don't feel like safe being vulnerable enough to share it with him, start with just writing it down for yourself. 3 things that you're grateful about for your husband. It's a good thing to do, like at the end of the day, right before you're ready to go to bed. Also, going to sleep with the energy of gratitude also opens us up to so much abundance. This is literally how you manifest abundance in your life, is going like writing gratitudes before you go to sleep. We go to sleep with the vibration of gratitude, and that's a very high vibe. First of all, you sleep better. Second of all, you sleep with the open energy. And third of all, you manifest all the things that you're grateful for. Okay, so we're going to be writing down 3 things that we're grateful about our husband every night before we go to sleep. We also agree that
every day I have to come up with 3 new things.
I try to come up with 3 new things. Can I tell you something? When you know that this is your homework, you're going to look for evidence during the day.
I'm going to have to use my imagination.
Go ahead and use your imagination. Imagination is the best thing. Use your imagination. Even if it's like things from the past, that he used to do that he doesn't do anymore, that when you were dating, it's easier to tap into that energy of gratitude. Like when you tap into like how things used to be when, before the kids or when you were dating. Because when we're dating, we're always like on our best behavior, right? And if we're able to do it when we're dating, we're also able to do it now. It's just that it's hidden because of all the history of resentment and criticism and all of that. It's like beneath the surface, but we can pull it back out by going into respect and gratitude and all of that. So it's okay, even if you have to go back to the past and think about things that you're grateful about him from the past, it doesn't matter. There's no timeline. Okay. She was going to pick a spouse fulfilling prophecy that she could write in her journal and affirm to her husband. She decided, "You're a great husband." Although she was moaning and groaning about having to say it, she said, "It doesn't feel true at all." But she agreed to experiment with it anyway, just to see what happened. She didn't think it was going to change things. When we spoke again 2 weeks later, Sarah had written her gratitude list faithfully every day and repeated her spouse fulfilling prophecy in her journal and to her husband. I asked her how things were going, and she said, "I'm just so happy that my husband forgives. When I asked her what she meant by that, she said, I realized I've been very unpleasant to him lately. Even though he's a great husband, I apologized to him and he was so sweet and forgiving. I felt really grateful that he didn't hold it against me, that I was so nasty. So do you see how her whole story changed within 2 weeks? She realized that he's a great husband. She took accountability and responsibility for how she showed up. And she kept focusing on her self-fulfilling prophecy, that he's a great husband, he's sweet and he's forgiving. And that's how she flipped to what she wanted. She also related stories of him being romantic, having success in his new business, and helping her handle the kids when it was time for some discipline. He sounded like a completely different guy. I couldn't resist teasing her by asking, is this the same loser you were married to 2 weeks ago? She said, I know. I guess I just needed an attitude adjustment. He really is a great husband. I couldn't see it, but that wasn't about him. It was about me. Her daily gratitude served as evidence for the case that her husband was thoughtful, generous, devoted, and hardworking. I'll tell you, I have a lot of stories where my clients will say, my husband is the nicest guy to everyone else, but when it comes to me, he's just like, he's so mean. He's so rude. Why is it that he can be so nice and he could be so caring about everyone else, but not when it comes to me? Because the belief that you have about him is that he's a not nice guy. He's not nice to you. He's rude to you. So if you believe that, the other people might not believe that, so that's not their experience of him. Whatever you believe about him, he's going to live up to those expectations. That's why it's so important to flip the script, because he is capable of being all the things that you want. You see it. You see it as evidence because he's able to give it to other people. So he's not giving it to you because of you, but it's just because of your beliefs and because of your expectations of him. So if he's capable of, being romantic and kind and being good with money and with other people, whatever it is, he is capable of doing it with you. So even if he's not giving it to you, but you see him being that way with other people, write that as your evidence, because if he's showing those attributes, he has them. So you could put that as your evidence that he helped his mother. He went, I know we get very resentful that, oh my God, he helped his mother, but he doesn't help me. But just notice that about him. Notice those good qualities about him. And, we could either be with our ego and keep creating the life that we don't want, or we can be in humility and find the good in him and create the life that we do want. Again, it's up to us. We're the only ones who can open up our happiness or who can hold it shut. Hashem is always giving to us. We can either be like this or we can be like this. This is ego. And this is when we're in humility. So it's very important for us to remember that when it's uncomfortable, it's painful to let our guard down, to be in humility. But this is why we're here on earth. We're here to get out of our comfort zone and create the life that we love. And that's what it takes. So she says, I guess I just needed an attitude adjustment. He really is a great husband. I couldn't see it, but that wasn't about him. It was about me. Her daily gratitude served as evidence for the case of that her husband was thoughtful, generous, devoted, and hardworking. She could have used her journal in a court of law to prove that he was a good man and a great husband. Or she could have stuck to her old tired complaints and proven to the jury that he was an overweight, under-earning waste of space. Sarah not only started focusing on what she appreciated about her husband, she began to get more of what she wanted from him because she had changed her attitude. You can bet he was responding to her differently. Who wouldn't? Knowing that someone respects and appreciates you is likely to help you feel more relaxed so you can be yourself. Feeling like you've been picked on all the time can make anyone defensive. Gigi was affirming that her husband never wanted to spend time with her when I introduced her to the concept of the spouse fulfilling prophecy. That weekend, they had planned to spend Saturday together, but then he announced that he had made plans with his friend Matt to go cycling instead. When he told her that, she was so hurt that she automatically reverted to her old affirmations. She said, "You never want to spend time with me," and stormed out of the room. A few minutes later, she remembered about her new spouse fulfilling prophecy and decided to give it a try, even though they were now in the middle of a fight. She went back to him and said, I'm sorry I said that. I know you want to spend time with me. I'm sure you'll work it out somehow. Imagine her surprise when a few minutes later he said, I called Matt back and told him I can't go cycling today so that we can spend the day together. Gigi told me she was shocked at how quickly she got what she wanted with the power of a spouse fulfilling prophecy. What negative affirmations do you currently have about your husband? Is he always cranky? Is he stingy? Is he lazy? Is he messy? It's time to create a spouse fulfilling prophecy that serves you better. You can decide to focus on how he's easygoing, generous, industrious, tidy, or anything else. What will your spouse fulfilling prophecy be? Often our students feel awkward using a spouse fulfilling prophecy because it's completely different than what they're used to. Yours will probably feel awkward too at first, or even dishonest. That's just because you're stretching into a new perspective. Any change, good or bad, will always feel strange in the beginning. But what have you got to lose by trying to affirm what you want to experience? So anytime we learn something new, we do things in a new way, it's stretching, it's growing out of our comfort zone. So it's our choice. Do I rather stay comfortable and stay in this space that is not working for me and is separating me from my intimacy? Or will I be okay with a little bit discomfort in the beginning of doing something new? Like, remember when you were learning to ride a bike, how you fell and you got back up and you tried again, or any new skill that you learned. In the beginning, it's always uncomfortable. Anything new that we're learning, is always uncomfortable. It's okay. Get comfortable with discomfort. If you're uncomfortable, it means that you're growing. It means that you're moving forward, that you're changing your reality into the reality that you want. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. Do it scared, do it messy, do it uncomfortable. Just do it. Move forward and change your life to what you want it to be. A friend of mine who was engaged to a wonderful guy was complaining about how her fiance was being inconsiderate to her during a very busy period at work. She was unhappy that he never washed the dishes and she was always stuck doing them, which she thought was rude. She suggested that she catch him doing something good to help her change her focus by thanking him when he did wash dishes. So instead of constantly focusing on when he's not doing, like, we're so used to correcting our husband or our kids when they're not doing what they're supposed to, but so many times in the day they are doing what they're supposed to. They are doing things that we want, and it's very important to catch them doing the right thing and thank them for it. Whatever we focus on increases. Like, instead of focusing on what they're not doing and increasing that, keep focusing on when they are doing the right thing. This is also with parenting. It's incredible. Spouse fulfilling prophecy, kid fulfilling prophecy, mother-in-law fulfilling prophecy, whoever you have relationships with, catch them doing the right thing and just thank them for it. And they're going to be like, okay, so Irina expects me to be this person, so I will show up as that person for her because she believes that, I do the dishes, and she believes that I'm on time, and she believes that, like, all of these things that I want from that person. So focus on what you want and thank them. You're giving them a roadmap to your happiness because no one can read your mind about what makes you happy. This is how you're telling them, this is what makes me happy. Not by criticizing them, but by thanking them, right? She could also let him know how happy it made her when he did them. But it was a no-go for her. She insisted he never washed a single dish. She said, look, my fiance is awesome, but he's not like your husband. John is just much awesomer. How many times do we compare our husband with other guys? Oh, her husband does everything and he's the best guy and whatever. And my husband is a loser. How many times do we do that? But that, again, if I'm gonna bring that up to him, what does that do? Guard goes up and I lose my intimacy. Is it worth my intimacy? I took that as a huge compliment because what I heard her saying was that I focus on how wonderful my husband is. And she's right. I do focus on that, constantly talking about how often he does things I like. And because of that, John is very willing to do more things that make me happy, because he feels appreciated. In my experience, this is a much awesomer way to live. You can focus on the outcome you want for your marriage, even on the brink of divorce, as Regina discovered. So I'm going to go into that in a minute. I just want to also mention that it's so important, the type of friends that we have. And if our friendship groups are other women who are focusing on increasing their intimacy, and they're working the 6 intimacy skills, and they, they focus on gratitude instead of complaining, it kind of helps us to continue that with our relationships. But if we have friends and they're always complaining about their husbands, it's a very awkward way to, it doesn't feel supportive. It just feels very disconnecting. So it's very important of who your friends are. Just be aware of your circle, and you want to surround yourself with people who are growing like you and who want to have, intimate relationships just like you. Okay, so let's talk about Regina now. When her husband served her with divorce papers, she was devastated and terrified, but she decided to speak only her faith, not her fear. She said to him, "I don't even need to read them. I know you've been generous and fair. You're the kindest man I've ever known. I don't want to have anything to do with these papers." So imagine he's serving her divorce papers, and she tells him, "I don't even need to read them. I know you've been generous and fair." So her spouse fulfilling prophecy. "You're the kindest man I ever known. I don't want to have anything to do with these papers." Regina attended a meeting with her husband and the divorce attorney for the sole purpose of being able to say, "Whatever you think, and I trust you." Her husband had started out charging hard, in a hurry to dissolve the marriage and move on. By the end of that meeting, he was telling her, "I'll get new papers to you, but there's no rush." Regina's approach made what could have been a 30-day divorce in her state into a process that stretched on for more than 8 months. Time she used to show her husband her newfound respect, gratitude, and vulnerability. So again, the power to be married is within us. If we want to be married, we will be married. If we don't want to be married, we're not going to be married. So her desire was to stay married. And even though her husband served her paper and she could have been divorced in 8 days, she chose to have a spouse fulfilling prophecy, and she chose to work on the intimacy skills. And within 8 months, she showed him respect, gratitude, and vulnerability. And she called on him to be his best self. And that's how he began showing up. It was only a matter of time before they were connecting again. Sometimes it really is darkest before the dawn. So then she talks about her podcast, and basically it's the same thing that we were talking about. I guess you guys could read that. It's like an experiment of someone that went through something similar. So yeah, that's what spouse fulfilling prophecies are. Whatever we focus on increases. So keep focusing on what you want. And if you don't know what you want, write down a list of everything that you don't want. Write down a list of everything that you dislike about your husband. And then let's say, my husband never helps with the kids. Okay, that's my complaint. My husband never helps with the kids, for example, right? So then if I don't know what I want, I could look at my complaint and what's underneath the complaint. Underneath the complaint is a desire. So what is my desire? My husband never helps with the kids. I would love help with the kids. So it doesn't have to be my husband. My desire is I would love help with the kids. Happens to be that my husband's, the one that I'm focusing on. But if I write my desire, I would love help with the kids, I open myself up, and then Hashem will fulfill that. Either my husband will help me, my mother-in-law will help me, my sister, whoever. But my desire is I would love help with the kids. And all of a sudden, I go into solution mode. And when I'm in solution mode, a whole different bunch of solutions come up. But I have to release control of how it happens, how the help comes through. Or my complaint is my husband doesn't make money, my husband doesn't bring money home. Again, underneath the complaint, what is my desire? I would love to have abundance. I would love to have parnasa, right? So it's very important to get in touch with our desires and then to express it to my husband. You know, you're such a wonderful provider. And that's how I bring in what I want. So this is usually what I work on in my one-on-one sessions with my clients. Like we work on, you know, just getting in touch with our desires and working on manifesting them by, first of all, acknowledging what my desires are, what your desires are. I kind of, you know, have a step-by-step process of guiding you to your desires. So this is it for this week. Our Spouse Fulfilling Prophecies. This stuff really, really works. I am a walking evidence that it really works. It's been working amazing in my life, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how it's working in your lives. And you know, I hope that you do the homework. Again, you're doing it for you. You're doing it for yourself, for your life, to expand your life. You have the tools, you know, it works if you work them. So I give it over to you ladies, and I'm looking forward to hearing good news next, you know, when I come back from my vacation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Have a
guys.
great
We're
time.
running.
Does anyone have any questions before we go? Anyone have any questions? Any discussions? All right. Have a great night, ladies.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.